Hi everyone, and welcome to the Manikamra podcast. Today we are in a conversation with Miss Sadikshya Karki. Sadikshya is the country CEO for one of the world's largest organizations, and I've had the privilege to work with Sadikshya in the past. We are going to talk about women in leadership, and we would be talking about various things like gender diversity, inclusiveness in the workplaces, and we'll be also listening to all the crazy stories that Diksha has to share. Before we start, I just want to address one thing that's really important. When we talk about gender diversity, it's unfair to talk about only two genders, that's male and female, because there are more than two genders, and we will be covering this in our upcoming episodes. So let's get right to today's conversation. So, Diksha, thank you so much for being on the Money Camera podcast today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So, Diksha, before you start, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Sadikshya Karki. I'm currently CEO and president for a youth led organization called ISEC. I've done my undergraduate in computer science from Kathmandu University. And yeah, right now I'm fully focused on my role as in president over here. Apart from work, I'm passionate about dance. I'm passionate about sustainable development goals and volunteerism itself. So yeah, that's me.
Right, so Diksha, thank you so much for that introduction. And I've known you since, it's been almost a year and you have been a great friend. The
Mhm,
reason, Sadiksha, I wanted to talk about this particular topic, like this topic has been in my list. I knew that I want to talk about this. But
mhm,
there's this one fact, and I just want to throw that fact in this conversation, and that fact is absurd. It is disturbing, and that fact is actually the reason that pushed this
mhm,
conversation ahead, right?
mhm,
So the fact is, there are more CEOs named David than there are
mhm,
the number of women CEO in the world. And
mhm,
this is so much disturbing, like plain failure of the system. And I have had the opportunity to be led by an amazing woman, Shubhangi Thakur, and I know the women leadership is phenomenal. So I wanted to talk
mhm,
about this. You have been leading one of the world's largest organizations. You are the country CEO for ISEC in Nepal. Right.
mhm,
And my question to you, Sadiksha, is why is
mhm,
diversity important? And, focusing only on gender diversity. My 2 cents here would be,
mhm,
diversity of any kind brings a lot of
mhm,
diverse ideas, diverse thoughts, and, diverse strategy as well. The strategy, let's say,
mhm,
so we both have worked with people from various countries, from Indonesia, Vietnam, India, and now you are based in Nepal. I was based in Nepal as well. Each person brought a lot of various thoughts, various ideas, and one another advantage of having a diversity is, like, you get to be out of your comfort zone,
mhm,
because if we are living with same kind of people, working with the same kind of people, it kind of becomes our comfort zone, because we are very much
mhm,
familiar with the tradition, we are very much familiar with
mhm,
the the thought process, right? And
mhm,
kind of we are tuned for the same chain of thought. But then when a person
mhm,
from, let's say, another background, another culture, another gender
mhm,
comes into the team, and then they actually disrupt the tuning, and that's actually a good thing, because you get to be out of your comfort zone. And as the phrase goes, yeah, your growth happens when you get out of your comfort zone. So that's my
mhm.
2 cents. Why is it really important to have diversity? What would be your, what do you have to say on this?
I completely agree with the things that you have just mentioned, but I would like also to highlight about how did it started from the very beginning, why we have actually the problem of gender inclusion in any part of the work or any part of the world as of now, right? So let me start with the problem statement itself, and then I would link it to why is it important. So from the human civilization itself, there are a lot of myths, there are a lot of theories, there are a lot of facts that scientists, that lots of mythologies follows, right? And one of them, like, there are a lot of similarly Hindu, in Hindu culture itself, in religion itself, we have a lots of mythologies that we follow. And if we just look through it and read through it, in a lot of parts of these books and these myths that we have, we find a lot of phases as well. And in those phases itself, when we listen to these stories, it's quite fascinating, it's quite interesting, but there also you'll find a lot of gender biasness, gender inequalities, and a lot of things that led to the thought process of people of today's world. That is something I think that has stuck in our head, and in the people of today's world, or even in this century, particularly in most developed countries as well, and also in the developing countries. So there has been this one thought process of patriarchy and male dominated society since a very very long period of time, whether it is from Ramayan, where Ram was a dominating husband when Sita was taken by Ravan, and then she had to go through the Agni Pariksha itself. So there also we see a lot of examples, where even the god also shows gender biasness. So that is how the thought process has been rooted in most of the communities in the world. This is just an example of Ramayan which just popped in my head, but there are a lot of other assumptions, rather lots of other mythologies that has been worshipped and acknowledged, and also lived by a lot of people. So I think this is how the thought process has been set to a human mind, because of which there are a lot of inferiorism that happens within girl and a boy, in these two gender itself, and that has been continuing since hundreds of years of human civilization. So that is something that brought a problem, which is rooted in people's head, and that is passed by generation to generation to generation itself, right? And there was this one quote itself: tradition is peer pressure from dead people. I think you told me that that a few months ago. So that was kind of stuck in my head, and I started thinking about particularly that term itself. So the problem has not been arrived just now, but it has been since a very very long period of time. But something that is happening good right now, in this developing age, in this 21st century, is that people are being more self-aware, be it girl or be it boy. They are being more self-aware about their strengths, about their weaknesses, about their world around, about environment. So these kind of things are actually bringing a lot of new ideas and new perspective on how people should be treated equally, right? So even though there are a lot of beliefs and assumptions that even if you compare a girl and a boy, then in physical strengths, and boys are quite strong, and then girls are always suppressed, thinking that girls cannot pick up a lot of weight and this and that. But there has been, right now if we see, there has been a lot of we can see girls participating in Olympics for weightlifting. We can see fighters. So people are actually being more self-awareness at this point of time. And why is it important? Particularly, I've been privileged enough that I have been working in environment where there is no gender biasness, or there very limited, in negligible amount of gender biasness that I've faced in my working career. And that has made me understood that why is it so important to have perspective from every single person in the room. Inclusiveness brings trust in the team. It helps to build the connection. It helps in performance. It helps in getting diverse ideas. So there are a lot of things, the list goes on and on. But when this does not happen, then there is a stagnant growth that any company will not be able to, any company will not be able to break that glass ceiling, or do something remarkable, because people will not be inclusive, people will not hear someone's thought, they will be suppressed, and that will not create something remarkable. And yeah, if people wants to do something very remarkable, and something that contributes to someone's life, and also and also in world, then inclusion is very, very important.
And I think whatever you said about how the gender bias is actually engraved in our thought process, in our system, let's say hundreds of years ago, the job industry worked like that.
Mhm.
If it was based on the strength, like the physical
Yes.
strength you had, if you are able to work physically, if you have that kind of strength, then you get the work, right? And biologically, the strength of a male body is more
Mhm.
than the female
Mhm.
body, right? And I think, since then, because the male or the man has been bread earning person,
Mhm.
and and that kind of established the dominance
Mhm.
over the female gender,
Mhm.
right? And then it continued, it
Mhm.
it went from like one generation to another generation, and then it
Mhm.
just became so normal to everyone,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's what has been happening right now. But now the job industry, or like the labor industry, does not work like that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of jobs, they work on based of your IQ, how smart you are. And the physical strength or the physical work is really less,
Mhm.
especially in the major in the major part of the job industry, right? And thank you so much, Sadiksha, for your answer. Sadiksha, the
Mhm.
organization where you work, what is the
Mhm.
current gender statistic?
Okay. So this is actually something that I'm really proud of, that my organization has always been a place where we do not treat someone special, or we do not treat someone inferior, but we treat every gender equal. And since I think it's been already 4 years that I've been part of this organization, and through the very beginning itself, I have seen this, that nobody is neglected. Everyone's thought process and everyone's opinion are being heard and also acted upon. So it's proud, thing to say that right now we have, in the leadership positions itself, we have 60% of participation female, by female leaders, and then rest by male.
Right, and because I've also served in the same
Mhm.
organization as the CEO, and I have that privilege. During my time, it was 80% women, and that was something that is unheard of in the in the industry. So,
True.
Diksha, what kind of culture is
Mhm.
driving this kind of gender statistics? And one thing that
Mhm.
you said, and one thing that I would also want to talk about, is the culture of meritocracy, where your ideas, your thoughts are respected, they are valued,
Mhm.
irrespective of anything, irrespective of your gender,
Mhm.
irrespective of your position,
Mhm.
your culture,
Mhm.
anything. If you have any disability, anything does not matter. If
Mhm.
you have a good idea, if you have a good thought, if you have a good strategy, you are valued, right? And I think that is
Mhm.
one culture that you talked about, the culture of
Yes.
meritocracy. So that's something commendable. But more insights into this, Sadiksha.
Mhm.
What is the culture that has driven this kind of
Mhm.
unheard, amazing statistics?
Mhm. Yeah, I think this question is really interesting, and when you're saying this question, it actually made me reflect onto the first day of actually being introduced to this organization, and when I was interviewing for being a member of ISEC as well. So as a person, I started volunteering around 6 to 7 years ago, and it started with simply with a very fun motive on spending my Dashain vacation in something useful. So that is how the concept of volunteering started. I got a chance to work in a lot of different organizations, but it was a very small projects that I used to do, and quite fun projects which contributed to a bigger impact. And one thing that I found very common in these organizations are that even if they try their best to make sure that they are quite inclusive, and then they respect opinions and these things, but I quite didn't experience such when I was working with other organizations. So but when I came to ISEC, when I was even sitting in that interview hall, there were five people sitting in front of me and I was there alone. I felt I was feeling very nervous at that point of time. But one thing that I realized in that interview, and also after getting selected and after few months being on the other side of actually taking interview of other people, something that I realized is that, from the very beginning of our journey itself, we were treated equal. So even if there was a boy who was sitting by my side, or even if there was someone with disabled who was sitting by my side, and we three were competing, we were competed only on the basis of our intent and how much we can contribute to the organization and our thought process, rather than how we look, which gender we're from, what do we support. No, nothing was looked upon, and only thing that was considered was how much we can contribute and how much we can give back and how much we are eager to learn. So something around passion was treated more, rather than appearance, rather than strength, rather than gender, anything as such. So we were treated like this from the very beginning, and now that thought process started to embed in our head, in every single member that comes to the organization. This is one thought process that is made to believe to people that every person who comes to this organization is treated equally, and they have equal amount of strengths, and they have equal amount of capabilities. The only thing that you need to do over here is constantly learn and be curious, and that's it. So that is the kind of culture which brings the sudden mind shift and the thought process shift. Because I think the generation, our generation and also previous generation, have not thought of or seen these kind of culture normally in workplaces, in our schools, or in our colleges, and that sort of affects our mindset, and we constantly move through that. And to change that, it is a really difficult job. But if workplaces like this, and if organizations like this will be accessible and will be available at most of the places, then actually it might help in changing this kind of mind shift. So yeah, this was the entire concept of how I experienced it when I took that first step of actually being in this organization. And also after a few months, I got to realize from the interviewer point of view as well, how the thought process gets shifted. So this is how the culture established in our organization.
That's very interesting, Sadiksha. And I hope the other organizations, the other companies actually learn from whatever you said. And I think a lot of companies are actually working towards creating an inclusive culture,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them are
True.
also working for something that's called tokenism, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
you recruit people. Let's say if they want racial diversity, they recruit people of color, or if they want gender diversity, they recruit male,
Mm-hmm.
they recruit female, they recruit LGBT people,
Mm-hmm.
and then other kinds of diversity, they recruit disabled people, they recruit army people. But a lot of organizations just do that for the sake of token, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you spoke about meritocracy and valuing every
Mm-hmm.
person's ideas, every person's
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, every person's strategy, respective of their culture and their gender, anything. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually very good step on
Mm-hmm.
to create an inclusive culture. And
Mm-hmm.
again, thank you so much for that. Sadiksha, I wanted to throw in
Mhm,
another fact. So this is according to the McKinsey's 2012 report that only
mhm,
18% of women actually want to get into the C-suite, the
mhm.
CEO,
Yeah.
CFO, CHRO, all
Mhm,
the C-level roles, right? You have done three different C-level roles, right? You have led the product department, and then you have led
mhm,
the sales department, and now you
mhm.
are the CEO for the organization. What
Yes.
has motivated you?
Mhm. I think in this organization, being part of this organization actually helped me in understanding what I'm passionate about and what I really want to do in my life. So, which is somewhere around contributing a lot back to the society, and also working towards either sustainable development goals or policy making. If I have to give a sector that I want to work on, would be in improving the quality of education system here at Nepal itself. So it starts with how I got into this organization and how I started my journey. I actually started with an exchange, which is one of the product of our organization. That I went on exchange where I was a teacher to a Montessori student, where I used to teach courses and about traditional equipments and everything about Indonesia, and particularly about Bahasa language and the community over there, about those things. And as a person, I love kids. It was like Christmas and New Year's and Dashai for me to actually be among those children and teach. And that actually helped me understand about myself, that I love teaching and I love sharing my knowledge around people. And something that I continued, once I came back also, I started the branch of ISEC in Kathmandu University. And then I applied to the national level itself. And like you mentioned, yes, I have handled three of the product. And something that kept me going was passion for learning something new every single day. And that is what keeps me excited. That is what makes me wake up every single morning and get ready for all the challenges which are ahead. In my ISEC journey, and in every single role that I've taken so far, it has been the most challenging phases that I've faced in my life. Managing finances, managing family, managing friends, to struggling a lot in achieving goals, and every single thing that you can think of, which a normal person, or which anybody would be facing in while they are working in any corporates, in any organization. I was feeling the same thing as well. And one thing that kept me satisfied and fulfilled was the sense of realization and sense of fulfillment and satisfied after every single work is done. And after I realized that, okay, I've learned something out of this experience. I've learned to be more productive. I've learned to be more efficient. I've learned to tackle these kind of problems. So that is, I think, what keeps me going, and also my passion towards something that I want to contribute after this experience as well, and how this experience is adding up to preparing myself for something more challenging ahead in my life when I go out of this organization. So yeah, motivation and passion for learning something new, and also discovering about myself and contributing to things which are far more greater than me. That is what keeps me going.
Right, Sadiksha. So, to sum up your answer, and this is
Mm-hmm.
also for the organizations to take note on, how to
Mm-hmm.
keep people, like Sadiksha, and what keeps them going is so first, the organization helped you to find your purpose.
Yeah,
Second, the organization helped you to align your personal goals with the organizational goals. You
true.
woke up every day, to contribute towards your own vision, towards your own purpose, but it
Mm-hmm.
eventually fulfilled the vision of the organization. And
Yes.
third thing that I got from your answer was that the organization challenged you. You really had to struggle through a lot of your roles, a lot of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
which eventually made you the person you are right now. And I think that's a tremendous answer, Sidiksha. You also talked about your cultural exchange. You went to Indonesia.
Yes.
You were teaching little kids, and that was also a
Mm-hmm.
part of where you could discover your own purpose. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And we'll touch upon your traveling stories in the later part. Something that I want to ask, and I wanted to ask actually in the
Mm-hmm.
starting, but that's
Mm-hmm.
actually a personal, really personal
Mm-hmm.
question,
Mm-hmm.
and this
Yeah.
is, again, I'm again pulling a stats.
Mm-hmm.
52% of women have the
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome, which is you think that you don't deserve where you are. Let's say if I'm the CEO, the imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
would make me believe that I have reached here by being fraud. I don't deserve to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously leads to a lot of anxiety. It leads to
Mm-hmm.
uh, lower self-esteem, lower self-confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in an interview with a lot of women CEOs, the
Mm-hmm.
report says that almost 40% of the women CEO, they told that yes, we face the imposter
Mm-hmm.
syndrome. So I want to ask, have you ever faced imposter syndrome?
Yes, I think my journey of working with organizations, volunteering, taking up roles started with feeling that do I even deserve, or do I even do I even deserve to be here, or what have I done to actually be in this position, or will I be able to contribute, or will I be able to keep up to people's expectations? So these are the kind of questions which used to constantly come into my head when I took my first leadership position in this organization. So if I have to remember, it was 4 years back, when the branch of ISEC in Kathmandu University, where I studied, was shut down. And then it was shut down at the point where I felt, where in 20 years of my life, when I was actually feeling very included, where I felt that okay, here, okay, in this organization nobody is going to judge me, and I can say, I can express my thoughts, and actually people will listen to me. So this was something which happened really, really, something really amazing and something really different. And when I heard that the organization is going to shut down, I didn't want that to happen in any cost. So there was this motivation, there was this constant push in my heart that okay, whatever happens, I cannot let this organization close over here, because there might be a lot of people who might be going through the same journey, who might be doubting themselves, who might be in the closet, who might not be able to express their thoughts. So I thought that if I am like that, then there might be hundreds of other people who are having similar thought at this particular time. So why to close such organization who can actually help them and make them feel good for once in their life? So that there was this constant motivation that was with me. But in times only motivation does not work, because there are a lot of external factors which makes you feel unworthy, which makes you feel less, which makes you feel doubt yourself a lot. And same thing happened with me also when I was applying for chapter head at ISEC in Kathmandu University itself. For someone who has been in the organization for such a short period of time, even thinking about applying for a leadership position was a really, really difficult job. And after even thinking, okay, fine, so, making mind that I want to become the chapter head of ISEC in Kathmandu University, then uh, going through the process is also really difficult and is full of doubting yourself and full of asking question like, what will people think, what if I get selected and I'll not be able to fulfill people's expectation? I think these are the questions that has been in my head in every single leadership position that I've taken since 2015 itself. And I also realized why this happens. Um, First, like I mentioned in the very first answer itself, there is this traditional mindset stuck in our head that which tells us constantly that women or girls are, limited in their strength, limited in their capabilities, limited in their opportunities, and there is a defined set of work for women. There is a defined set of work, or a thought process that is given to us by immediately after our birth. There is certain rules and regulations which we have to follow since we start developing consciousness about how this world works actually. And to remove that thought process, it takes a lot of time, and to remove all those toxic thought process, and to overcome those, it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of strength mentally and physically as well. Which is why when you also gave this data that a lot of girls feel they are feels that they are not worthy, or they are not someone who can actually be in this position and do good, that is because of these things, that is because of these mindset, traditional mindset, which is stuck in the head. And if women are not encouraged to even think past these experiences. I was privileged enough that I got these opportunities which made me and compelled me to think. But there are a lot of women, girls, young girls, teenagers, and people from LGBTIQ community who does not even get chance to think past these thought processes and experiences. It is actually really, really sad to know the stats and to know the state of women and LGBTI community in this world.
Very powerful answer, Sadiksha. Really powerful. Um, and I also want to ask you, how did you tackle all of these problems?
One of the strength I would like to say that this is one of the strength that I have is confidence. Even if someone or even if people would come to me and tell me hundreds and thousands of times that you cannot do it, but if somewhere down the line I feel, and in somewhere in my heart I feel that no, this is just made for me, and if I don't do it, then nobody is going to do it, and there is no any other option than me taking these responsibilities, then even if thousands of people come to me and say that you cannot do it, I'll still do it. So that is one of the strength that I have, and I have built throughout these years of struggling a lot, doubting myself a lot, being a lot of conscious, fear of judgment, overcoming all these fears, overcoming all these thought process, and building a confidence in myself was actually the key to overcome all these thought processes, and all these struggles. Even in my worst to worst days, when I felt that nothing is working out, when I felt that none of the solution is working, there are no person who is supporting me, and I'm all alone over here struggling with these problems. I do get panic attack, I do get anxiety, I do get anxious thinking about all these problems. But after some point of time, after being all anxious, after maybe crying out loud, after maybe punching pillows and expressing my emotion, one thing that pops up into my head is that one question, that why did I started, and why am I doing this, and then after understanding and after repeating that answer to myself, that what, I started this because of these particular reasons. I started this because I wanted to make these kind of changes, and if I give up at this point of time, then every single thing that I've done so far, every single, like all the time, all the effort that I've put forward to come to this position and come this far will all go in vain. And that keeps me motivated, and that pushes me every single time when these kind of thought processes and when these kind of thoughts come to my head and makes me anxious. So yeah, this is one of my secret, how I keep up and how I keep myself motivated.
I think when a person has a very clear why,
Mm-hmm.
that person can, do anything. Like, if you have a very clear vision, then you can, if not path A, then
Mm-hmm.
you have an option B. Like, if not, then you will create an option B, because uh, all of these things, all these positions are just means to eventually reach your vision. And whatever you said, Diksha, is very powerful,
Mm-hmm.
very clear. And thank you so much for
Mm-hmm.
being being so much vulnerable. It takes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of courage, being vulnerable on a platform like this. And another thing that I wanted to ask,
Mm-hmm.
so I know you went to Russia this February before this
Yes.
COVID happened, where there were almost 100 CEOs
Mm-hmm.
from almost 100 different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And Sadiksha, you being an executive, you have to travel a lot. And I'm also, like, I know your journey, and I also know my leader's journey, Shubhangi. She,
Yeah.
when back in Chandigarh, when I was the CFO for this organization. She was a
Mm-hmm.
CEO, and then she had to travel a lot inside India and then outside India as well. And then she was still in
Yeah.
college. Then she was a vegetarian. She had to struggle a lot, especially in Europe and then in
Yes.
the Middle East. So she was in Egypt, then she was in Poland, and then she was in a few other countries as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was really really difficult for, and because of lot of things, like
Mm-hmm.
convincing your parents, managing your studies, and then the kind of food, and then obviously traveling alone, right?
Yeah.
And so Diksha, you have traveled alone a lot. You have to travel alone, not
Yeah.
sometimes but quite often. How do you manage all of that? You're a graduate, but
Mm-hmm.
you still have let's say family to answer. You still have other
Mm-hmm.
things to do. So how do you manage all of this, especially keeping in mind the stereotype that women cannot travel alone? So how did you
Yeah.
manage?
Yeah, so I yes, I got a lot of chance to travel. But also one thing about traveling is that I traveled a lot. I used to travel a lot with my parents because my father is a government officer and he changes a lot. He changes his office a lot. So he is constantly being posted to lots of different parts of Nepal. So as of now, I've got this chance of traveling to around 30 different districts of Nepal. So I've been traveling a lot since I was kid itself. Going to going to my dad's office and traveling to different lot of places. It actually helped me also connect and find out my hobby about something that I love doing was traveling. One of the part, but then when I grew up, like you mentioned, there are a lot of stereotypes and there are a lot of rules and regulations that a girl has to go through because of a lot of events and incidents that happens around the world. Because in developing countries like Nepal, right now, even in pandemic, we hear a lot of rape cases, we hear a lot of acid attacks incidents happening, which automatically makes our parents concerned about our safety and our health. And this is really sad, that we understand that our parents are very concerned about our safety and they want us to be safe. But in the name of safety and just to be myself and just to do some daily task, also I have to look into time and I have to look into the environment that I am in. And these are the kind of things that a woman has to go through, which is really really sad. Because we also have right to travel freely, we also have right to see places, we also have right to walk around in the night. And even thinking about walking around in the night makes me scared, even at this point of time. Why? Because the number of rape cases, the number of acid attacks are increasing day by day. And I cannot blame my parents for that. I cannot blame my parents for saying, stop caring about me. Because even if they do not do, I am more conscious. So these are the reasons, why our parents keep on stopping us from doing a lot of things, keep on restricting us from taking a lot of steps, which is majorly out of our comfort zone. Which is why I faced a lot of challenges when I had to travel around. like you clearly mentioned that in this organization, when we are particularly in leadership positions, we have to travel a lot for conferences and summits. So when these kind of conferences and opportunities used to happen, up to one point of time, what I used to do was I didn't inform my parents until the very very last moment, because I knew if I told them in the starting of the process itself, they would convince me to stay and not to go. And I knew that because that had happened a lot of times with me. When I wanted to go out with my friends for simply for a night out, for simply for a camping or hiking, I was not allowed, saying that girls only girls group should not go outside because it's not safe. So this was like one answer that I used to get, and then which also made me very very conscious about, okay, I think when it's evening time and it's night, then seriously there are criminals out in the street, and then it's not safe to walk outside. And that was the kind of thought process we used to have. But when I grew up, and then when I started getting opportunities, then I understood about how to keep myself more safe, and how to be more self-aware about these things as well. So like I said, I used to hide these information from my parents, and I used to tell them at the very last moment. I used to tell my mom and dad that, okay, I got this opportunity and I have to travel. And thankfully I got a chance, and my parents actually agreed. The first solo trip that I did was, I went to India for a conference where I was selected as facilitator for one of for two of the national conferences. And that was me first time traveling to an unknown land where I didn't know any people. The only conversations that I've had with people was the person who took my interview, the person who told me that I'm selected, and that's it. On those conversation basis, I got my tickets, and then I started journey, or like a journey of my solo traveling. So that is how I started, and I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of good people on the way. Because when you travel, there will be a lot of people who will tell you bad things about the place, right? And there are lots of stereotypes, assumption about traveling, about meeting strangers and this and that. But I was fortunate enough that I met a lot of good people on the way. I made a lot of friends, and I had this really, really amazing experience traveling around India itself, and that was really amazing. And after that, I got chance to go to like Malaysia, Russia, Indonesia was my exchange. I went there with my friends. So so these were the things that I used to actually do. But the only point where I had to hide from my parents was when I was traveling to India. Apart from that, when I was traveling to Malaysia and then Russia as well, these things were well informed to my parents. And at this point of time, there had been a trust already built amongst me and my parents, that they believed that, okay, I can take care of myself, and I'll manage things, and it's okay for me to let go, because I can make good decisions of myself. And to build up that trust, actually it took me 23 years of my life, and it was not an easy task. So that is what I used to do when I had to travel around, and not only outside the country but also inside the country. It's the same case. So this is how I used to do.
No, I mean, like I remember you were traveling somewhere. I think it was Russia or Malaysia, and then uh, I think the immigration officer did not believe that you're traveling alone, or
Oh yes.
yeah. So what is that about?
Oh yeah. So this happened to me a lot of times. In every country that I've gone, this has always happened to me. So this happened first when I was traveling to India. So when I was going through the immigration itself, I showed my passport, and people in the immigration, like when you're traveling to India, they do not ask a lot of questions because it's our neighboring country, and a lot of people go for tourist purpose and every single thing. So but then that a gentleman asked me that what was my purpose of visit. And then I proudly told him that I'm selected as a facilitator, and then I'm going there representing Nepal, and I'll be part of one of the national conference in this organization. To which he was quite quiet for some time, and then and then he asked me, "How old are you?" And at that point of time, I was 21. You are 21 years old, and you're traveling alone to India. And he asked me, and I told, yes, why not? and then um he asked me, so you're going there for a conference and you're representing Nepal? And I said yes. And then to which he proudly later said that, there should be more girls like you. So that was quite proud moment for me, that even the immigration officer were actually praising me. And the second incident, which happened to me, was when I was going to Malaysia. Same, in the immigration, same incident in the immigration itself. I was kept in hold for a very long period of time, actually, when I was traveling to Malaysia. I don't know, there was some complication with visas or anything, but then and also I think they saw me alone, saying that I was going to travel, and also telling them that yes, I'm alone, made them quite shocked. And it took around 15 minutes of good discussions amongst their team, and then only they came to me and asked, all the purpose and every single thing. And this has happened to me a lot of time, even when I was roaming around the streets of Malaysia. When I went to this one mosque over there. So I had never been inside a mosque, and I really wanted to go, and I asked over there if I can go inside, and it was open for everyone. So I went. So I wore that burqa, and then the responsible person over there, who was, the guide, he was helping me out with putting those hijab and hijab, and I was enjoying the process. To which he asked me, who are you here with? And I told him, like, I was here alone traveling. And to which also he was quite shocked, asking, you're traveling alone, and in which country you're from? And then I told them from Nepal. And then again the same thing, how old are you? And at that point of time, I was 22, so I told them that I was 22. And these kind of incidents has happened to me a lot of times. I don't know why people are so shocked to actually see women traveling, and that too solo. I think this acts like a cultural shock for them, to actually believe that a girl is traveling alone. So yeah, these are some incidents that has happened with me.
It's a crazy story, Sadiksha. And yeah, I think so. That would be like a cultural shock because I think when
Hmm.
I first came to Nepal, I was also 22. But
Hmm.
no one ever asked me these questions. I just, let go. And like I've been around, and no one has ever asked me
Hmm.
that why are you traveling alone, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So Diksha, because you talked about traveling, and you have to travel a lot, being,
Hmm.
especially when you were on the executive positions.
Hmm.
And that a lot of people think that traveling is good, but I know there's one point when you, because of the business, you have to travel so much. um,
Hmm.
it kind of gets frustrating, when you have to
Hmm.
travel here and there, checking into hotels and everything. That gets frustrating at
Hmm.
one point. What is the best and the worst aspect of being a CEO?
Uh, so I think the best aspect of being CEO is that you get to like firsthand experience challenges and also success, and live the entire process uh, very closely. And that does not happen in other positions. It's something that I've experienced, because I've been in, like, I've been president in local chapter, and also in now in national level. And something that is really common is that this position allows us to experiment with a lot of sense of responsibility as well, it comes. But then it helps us to uh, experience things very very closely, and that is like the best thing that happens in this role, that you see success also from a very near and close perspective, and also you face challenge and experience challenge and struggles and failures also from a very close perspective. And that itself is a huge learning that happens, and that someone can get in their life. um, so this is the best thing. The worst thing I would say, uh, the worst thing I would say, I actually cannot think of a worst thing, because eventually, whatever wrong happens, or whatever makes you feel frustrated, makes you feel anxious, everything adds up to your learnings. So actually, I have not experienced any bad thing about being a CEO so far. I've enjoyed my first experience also, and I'm right now also enjoying my second experience as well. Definitely, there are a lot of struggles. Definitely, there are lots of challenges. And right now, since we are in the middle of pandemic, when nothing is certain, and like every single day, I have one new challenge in front of me, um, and which is very unique, that too. Like, it's not, there is no challenge or no struggle which is repeated. Every single day you have a new challenge, every single day you have a new problem, and then you need to think from a wider different perspective to actually overcome and then overcome these challenges and struggles. So, like, honestly, actually, I have not experienced knowingly the bad side of being CEO.
Diksha, have you ever thought of stepping down?
I have in my previous experience as chapter head. Not at this point of time, but definitely before I have. Yes.
Right, and what made you stay?
Um, like, same thing, motivation, why itself. Like, the moment why I the moment the I still remember very clearly the moment I took my phone and I wrote down to my immediate leader at that point of time that I cannot do this anymore and I want to resign. I clearly remember these words that I wrote down. And I was shaking at that point of time, because never in my life I had thought that I would leave, or I would even think to leave an organization who has given me so much, in which I've learned so much, and I've experienced so much. Even writing that message was a really difficult and tough task for me. But that was momentarily thought that happened. But then once I calmed myself down, once I had more conversation with my leader at that point of time. Actually, my leader asked me that what was the reason why you joined, or what was the reason why you took up this role for the very first time. In the application that you submitted, in the letter of intent that you wrote down to join this or to take this responsibility, why did you wrote those things? So simply these questions, like, these were the questions that were asked to me, and the answers which I gave motivated me instantly and pushed me to think otherwise and not take that decision. So once a person is clear about why that person took the responsibilities, why that person started this job, why that person wanted or chose to invest his or her time in this particular work, if that is clear, then any big challenges that comes ahead, any big struggles or failures that comes ahead, uh, they are prepared to overcome those situations as well.
Right, I think the saying goes like this: whenever you think about quitting, think why did you start in the first place? And
Yes,
I think
yes,
that's
definitely.
very powerful stuff. Really,
True,
really
true.
powerful. Thank you so much, Sadiksha. And my last
Hmm.
question to you
Yes.
would be, what would be your advice to all the
Hmm.
emerging female leaders listening to
Hmm.
this podcast?
One thing that I would like to say is, like, every single person should be independent, every single person should be self aware, every single person should ask themselves difficult questions. I would not be in this position if I had not asked myself a lot of questions, not a lot of difficult questions, or if my friends, or if my leaders, or if my coach would not have asked me difficult question, I would not be here. So asking, like, I think one of the major problem that is amongst these the young people in today's world is that they fear and they escape a difficult question, they escape difficult situations, and they try to settle down to things that are already available. People do not take a lot of risk, right? But there are a lot of changes, and to keep up that, keep asking yourself difficult question, keep motivating yourself, keep that why alive. And to those people who are in the struggling phase, or who are just thinking, of stepping, or thinking about changing the thought process, changing their mindset, and something has just triggered in their head, I would like to tell them to keep on thinking. Like, do not let those thoughts fade away. Take that first step. Trust me, even if you fail, you'll learn something. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of being judged. Don't be afraid of struggles. Don't be afraid of people around you. Don't be afraid of society around you, because uh, people will keep on saying, people will keep on judging, people will keep on taunting and giving you sarcasm or sarcastic look. But do not ever live with regret of not trying. So one suggestion that I would like to say to every single person who is listening to this podcast, especially girls, is that do not stop trying. Ask yourself difficult questions, be more self-aware, keep learning, keep striving, and keep that passion and hope alive.
Beautiful. Really, that's very moving, Satiksha. Again, because whatever you said is very powerful stuff, and it is reminding me of a lot of quotes that I read. And there's this
Yes.
one I don't remember exactly, but it goes something like,
Hmm.
if a person if a person has why, that person can
Hmm.
bear almost any how. Then if you have a
True.
why do you want to do something, then how that something will figure out.
Yes, it's very true. Very true.
So Diksha Garki, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. Would you like to say something to our listeners before we end this conversation?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Manik, for actually giving me this opportunity to express, because it had been a very long period of time when, actually these kind of conversation had happened. So I hope our conversation, helped a lot of people out there and listeners out there with how they can shift the mindset and how they can actually start finding their why. And the sole purpose was itself about, sharing our experiences and sharing our stories. So I hope that worked out pretty well. And I really, really enjoyed having this conversation. So thank you so much for having me.
I'm sure it will, Sidiksha. A lot of people will get, a lot of things out of this conversation. So yes, thank you so much, Sidiksha, for being here. I look forward to having a lot of other conversations on the Mani Kamra podcast with you.